Hello.
Oh,
Well, I'm so excited to be doing this today. I put podcast on hold for some time,
mhm.
and I'm so glad that I am getting to start this podcast,
With the
resume this
Joy
podcast
Queen.
with my joy queen. Yes. So, welcome everybody. Whoever is watching this live with us, not live, watching this on YouTube or listening to the podcast, I want to welcome you and I want to introduce you to my joy queen. That's what I call her. I want to take a moment to introduce you, Kakoli, in my words, and then, of course, I would love for you to add your own creative flavor to it, as I know you always do. Kakuli for me is pure positive energy. I think the words that for me describe her are beauty, love, joy, creativity, and wild. I think those are the words that truly, truly capture you for me.
What else can I add? You've done it all and most beautifully. There isn't anything else to add, really. I am all of that. And thank you. I became all of that, enhanced all of that in your presence. Thank you so much.
So, just for everybody to know, from context perspective, she is a single mother of three small children. Eight, what are the ages, Kakuli?
11, 10, and 8.5.
Yeah, 11, 10, and 8.5. All three boys. You can imagine what her house feels like or looks like. And two dogs. You've had three dogs, in fact, in your
Yes.
family, but you have
Yeah.
um, specifically been interacting with two dogs. Yeah.
Yes. Now, two. Uh, Lost them. But I just wanted to say that dogs kind of have been my angels all throughout. I sometimes count the number of dogs I either raised or fostered or rehabilitated, whatever the number is, over 40.
Oh,
And
wow.
and yeah, right now I have two of them with me, and the rest
Mhm.
are somewhere guiding me through their spiritual presence.
Beautiful. So, as you can already hear, she's a very spiritual being, dog lover. She's also a professional, very sought after professional, by the way, with a regular job. She's a blogger, she's a poet, she's a speaker, she's a writer, she's a creative consultant, she's a social media influencer. So, the list goes on. So, I'm just going to stop here. And in short, I just want to say, Kakuli, this is what I feel about you. I think you're a tight slap on the face of the old beliefs that women can't have it all. So I welcome you in this podcast. There are a lot of women who get inspired day to day with your presence. And I would love for my audience to also get a flavor of what that looks like to be Kakoli and what that looks like to really embody that you can have it all. Welcome.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Kavita, for all those words. And today has been a big day for me. So I have been living in that word cloud for a while. And now it almost seems like, that's my new reality. This is who
So
I
tell everybody what has happened today that
am.
is special.
Yeah, so Kavita gifted me this photo shoot, and during this photo shoot, I discovered all this other aspects and sides of me, which probably I had camouflaged very, very skillfully, and which came out during the photo shoot. And the results of it are like it's magnificence for everyone to see, right? Even me today, I have been glowing in basking in the glory of these photo shoot photographs that are out on Instagram, and it's a big moment for me because it's a big leap. I did not show up in my authenticity. Never ever have I showed up in my authenticity like I have in this photo shoot, and I am just enjoying the moment. Yes, there are people who are appreciating me for all that I am on the photo shoot, but more than those words, it is what I'm feeling inside me, that I'm not feeling nervous, that I'm not, that my critical voice is not telling me, this is not you, this is fake. All of that is my big moment to celebrate today. I think I feel it is all me. It is normal. It is natural part of me. I think that's my moment of celebration today.
That is
So,
so
yeah.
beautiful. And for everybody who's wondering what these pictures are, she set the stage, the social media stage on fire, I guess, with the beautiful, glamorous photos. And we'll share her Insta ID with you towards the end. So you can go check it out after you see this video or listen to the podcast. So
Yes.
today we're going to keep it casual. We're going to just do what we normally do, which is conversation, and our intention is to really bring out the flavor of what our experiences together have been, and especially focused on Kakoli, what her experience has been through the journey we have taken together for almost now a couple of years. And I would love to hear more from you. I'll try to do less talking, but you know me, I just love to.
Yes, I love our conversations,
Yeah.
and I absolutely love our conversations. I think everyone today can get a flavor of how coaching absolutely actually happens in our space. So I would want everyone to experience that as well. So please continue, and I will also continue.
And that's a good call out, by the way. People think coaching is like, where the serious one, you're sitting, separate, and you're like asking questions, and then there's a lot of silence, and our conversations are like that. We're all giggly.
Honestly speaking, my the kicks that I get out of coaching sessions are when I see you fall off the chair in laughter, right? Wow, today I'm done. She just did that act of doing like this on her chair. Yes, so yes, those are fun. No, sorry for taking your words. We were actually going into an important question about coaching, and I also actually have my piece ready. So please go on, finish the question so that I can answer.
Beautiful. So they've heard my piece of introduction. If there's anything else you want to add, feel free to add.
Yeah, so I would like to say that I've always known myself as this extremely creative person. I mean, I feel like creativity wants to flow through me and has different, and there are 100 different languages of expression of creativity for me. And I have felt curiosity towards many things. Now, that sounds beautiful when I say it today, but for the longest time, and when I say it, I was judged. I think most of it I judge myself because it's not really about the others, it's me. That much I know now. The judgment that, okay, she doesn't focus on one thing, right? She doesn't focus on one thing. She is always distracted. I wasn't really distracted. I'm curious as a person, and I have 100 languages of expression, and I wanted to follow through as many of them as possible, right? I love this prolific view of life, and I hated to be restrained to one way, one unidimensional, unidirectional view of life, and to be caged and felt constrained. So why am I mentioning all of that? Is in this space I uncaged myself, and what was judgment now became my spontaneous explorations, right? So, and what I always thought, this whole light, easy, free flowing life that I always imagined as a distant reality for others to have and for me to admire, has become my own reality. So that's who I am. So I I love to think of myself as this effervescent bubbles. You can't contain me in a jar. I can't contain myself in a bottle. I need to be all over. I love being happy. I love making other people happy. Nothing gives me more joy than seeing someone else smile and making them feel very good about themselves and making their day. So that gives me the biggest kick. So yeah, that's me.
That is beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Okay, so tell us, what brought you into the coaching world, or specifically coaching with me?
Okay. I want to start that answering that question with a poem that I wrote a few days back, because that was my thought at that point in time. The poem is called The Gate to Heavenly Delight. So the visual that I have drawn, I also do dabble a little bit in doodles. So there is this gate, a beautiful gate, a translucent gate. You can even call it transparent. You can see through it. There are even gaps. There are beautiful designs. And through it, you can see beautiful things. And I'll describe what those beautiful things are. And but there's a catch, right? There's all these beautiful things are on the other side of the gate, and there's a gatekeeper, a very scary looking gatekeeper. And the gatekeeper is who? The gatekeeper is the memories of the ugly past. Okay, so that gatekeeper is just the memories that are in my head. So the poem goes like this. I can see beautiful things. That's my gift. I can see a porch surrounded by pink bougainvillea and Madhavi Lota hanging. Madhavi Lota is an Assamese climber, not an Assamese climber, but a climber which is called Madhavi Lota in Assamese. I can see cane chairs and teapot covered with a tea cozy. I can feel winter sun rays too, and its warmth on my oil-soaked body for radiance, you see. I can see love and romance. I can hear Rumi being read and experienced in my curling toes and in my gushing bloodstream. I can see a picnic table and noisy, happy children playing frisbee. I can see dogs and bubbles and rows of flowers, not in an arrangement, but bustling with life and wilderness. I can hear laughter of friends. I can hear Tagore being recited. All of this through the gate to heavenly delight, translucent and see-through, but beyond my access, because it's guarded by the memory of the past. I can't get past. And I was tired of waiting at the gate. I was tired of waiting at the gate, not being able to access all these beautiful things, experience them in my reality. And that was the point in time when I made the choice to invest in coaching. And I want to clarify, not just any coaching, but there is a reason. There is a reason, and it is because now I know that the reason is bigger than any results that I have created so far. Right? I mean, I can understand and see that now. It was one random Facebook ad. I clicked on it, and there was something that you said about thoughts, choosing thoughts deliberately to create intentionally, create actions, results intentionally. Then that I resonated with that because having been a spiritual seeker, I knew that there is more to what we create, what gets manifested than just superficial goal setting. So I want to clarify that I was tired of waiting at the gate of heavenly delight, waiting for a way in. And that's when I thought, okay, I am done with therapy. I have healed as much as I could of the past, went into the past, did whatever was required. But now I have to go and enjoy the deliciousness of what can be mine. And that's when I decided to make the choice of investing in coaching.
Beautiful. And just for everybody, I want to clarify, because there are a lot of people who don't understand the difference between therapy and coaching. I think both of them are really useful tools to help us move towards our life goals. But in my experience, and I think what Kakoli was mentioning too, was that therapy is sometimes tends to get past focused. It's about healing from the abuse that you may have had and some traumatic incident that you may have had, and having experienced that and taken the benefit of it, she was ready to move forward towards being the future state version of Kakoli that she really desires to be. And that's how our paths met. And I'm so glad for that. So Kakoli, tell me, if somebody was watching you, watching the pre-coaching version and the post-coaching version, which is you now, what kind of differences would stick out? Like, how does the before Kakoli and after coaching Kakoli differ?
Initially the changes were kind of subtle, right? Everyone around me started noticing something has changed much after then when I started seeing those changes myself, I guess, because it took time for people to, my closest friends would come and tell me there is something different about the way you have become, the way you're more visible. Yes, I was more visible. That's an outcome. I mean, it wasn't that, okay, I want to be more visible, hence I want to do these things. But how can one see the tangible differences? I was much more visible. I had multiple ways of expression, creative expression anyway, which I was putting it out there, right? Those were some of the changes that my friends saw. I wouldn't think, like, I sang a lot. I remember that year, 2021.
Yeah.
I used to sing a lot, and I would share all whatever I was singing, I would share on social media. I did a lot of poetry recitation. I'd created content a lot more on LinkedIn, and not just what everybody's expecting to read, but what I felt I want to explore writing today. So those were some changes. But even before that, I want to kind of say more, the way I showed up, even smaller, they may seem smaller, but they're not. I know they're not. The way I showed up for anything, any conversation, that itself changed. Earlier, I was always self-doubting myself, second-guessing everything. Okay, if I say this, will that person like? If I say this, will that person like? So I was trying to guess how I would be received by someone else. And my time and energy would go in preempting other people's reactions, rather than, how I think I show up today in my power, and completely aligned to what I think should be done at that moment, bringing out my best in that moment. So that is the change, right? I mean, earlier I would serve everyone's idea that, first of all, it's so difficult to predict what the other person is expecting. And then I want to go one step beyond and delight every person's, that is the servitude mentality that I had. And that stopped me from being myself in every situation. And all these brilliant ideas that I had, which would never get discussed earlier, because I always want to make sure whatever I say is in agreement to the other people, would never come out. But today, I show up in my power, and I say what I think is the best idea for me at that point in time. So that has changed. These are smaller changes, which may seem smaller, but these took the most effort. But then there are other changes as well. I was struggling with time. I was struggling with time. I was in a job. Well, today, if you give me that job, maybe I would have done it differently. But at that point in time, it took my entire day. Not that I was like an extraordinary performer because I was putting in more effort in work. I was thinking about work all the time. I was thinking about work all the time. I was thinking about what this person would think, what that person would think, what is expected of me. So I was exhausted in my job. And all of these other creative explorations that you heard Kavita describe, me talk about, I didn't have space for any of those. I didn't have healthy, nourishing relationship with my children. Of course, children being children, they're ever forgiving, and they have forgiven me for my flaws at that point in time. But then my relationship with them was very superficial, right? It was very transactional. Have you done this 1, 2, 3, 4? Okay, if not, let's get it done. And if it was not done, that would lead to frustration. But there wasn't anything warm or nourishing in my environment at that point in time. This is now where I have sufficient time. I first of all made a career choice, career switch, and took up a job that is more aligned to my interest. I didn't necessarily have experience for this job, but I had interest. I felt a sense of alignment. So it's more aligned to my creative abilities. So I have a job that I'm happy in, and I have time to invest in writing, invest in educating my children. I love homeschooling, the concept of unschooling and homeschooling. While I'm not doing it full-fledged, but I spend a lot more time with my children now, and I cook a lot more. I make 10,000 arrangements of flowers. Yeah, you were saying something?
Yeah, no, I'm curious because I know the list is endless.
Okay.
But so I think what stood out for me was really allowing yourself the freedom to first of all believe that this life is possible for you. I think the belief
Yes.
really changed for you, where you were seeing, I think the poem also described that, right? Like that ugly past, I can't get past it, but this version really sees that this is all for me and I'm already experiencing some of it and going towards it.
Yes.
Right.
That belief. And secondly, I used to feel guilty earlier of following my interest, of indulging in what are my interests, anything that would delight me, anything that would be pleasure of any sort, right? I would feel guilty of making those choices versus now, okay, do anything that gives me happiness, and that is a good choice. So
and I think that's such a shift that I think women can't hear enough of, which is because everybody feels guilty. I think guilt is just a part and parcel of every married woman, especially mother's life. And you brought up a really good point of like, you just, when you do this work, frankly, you just realize the importance of keeping yourself in the center and knowing that how important it is to care for yourself and make choices that feel good to you. And I think I remember you, one of the aha moments you shared with me was in the time management workshop that we were doing, where we actually went into details of, like, where is your time going? Because I think that's the story everybody has. I don't have time. I don't have time, as if time is the reason we are not doing things. But the truth is that the reason we are doing all of those things and wasting all of time is because of this beliefs that you had. What's your memory of that experience? I know it's been more than a year that we did that.
I just want to talk about one incident, right? And that's about bike riding. So it required a certain commitment of my time every day to first learn and then to practice. And my thing is, no, how can I go in the morning? Because I need to be there. I should be there at home, helping my children get ready for school, do this, do that, etc., etc. There's a big story in my head that I should in parents, right? So I kept fighting this. There were two. I was torn between. I really wanted to be a proficient bike rider, and Oh, and the other one, oh, no, I should be at home. I should be at home. I should be preparing breakfast. I should be packing the snack boxes. I should be, actually, those were work from home days and homeschooling days. I mean, school from home days. So they were also at home. There wasn't really much that I was required to do, but the should was very, very loud and prominent. But anyway, because I was doing the time management thing also at the time, I made this commitment. No, I will go. What I want to share here is when I came back from my first long ride, um, I remember running upstairs because I wanted to see my children, and my helmet was still on my head. And then as I opened the door and I opened my helmet, this was one of those long distance riding helmets. And the look I saw on my kids, especially my middle child, and she's like, oh, and he's like, oh, mama, I'm so proud of you. You know, how many mamas do this? Tell me. How many mamas do this? I am so proud of you. I can't tell you, mama, how proud I am. And so, you know, he then took my riding jacket, my riding gears, all of it, and he wore it himself. Then at that moment, I realized, oh my God, I was using these children as my own crutch, you know, for not making a bold choice for myself. And I was blaming them for my sad story. While look at, after implementing that powerful choice, the joy that I saw on my children, the pride that I saw in them, that would serve them for so much longer than the extra few minutes spent in the morning saying, nagging them, oh, why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do that? Right? So that was, I think, a very powerful moment for me. I didn't answer your question in the sense that how I implemented time management, but I think that was a powerful outcome of
No, and I think it absolutely answers it, because the truth is the time is just a like neutral circumstance, as we would say. But what was stopping you from living the life was all these stories, the ugly beliefs that you had about, you know, I have to sacrifice, and if I can have it all, I can have both, as if these things are at odds with each other. But I think as we have challenged those stories, you're settling more into your magnificence and abilities and realizing that there are so many unique ways of achieving that.
Yes, and so one thing that really helped me is seeing everything from the perspective of power that I can step into, which was always available for me to access, right? And when I look at the same situation from the perspective of power versus the perspective of a victim in that should story, the things that I do are so different, and the receiver of those actions, my children in this context, the way they receive the messages are also so different. One is so empowering, right? It's empowering. It gives them confidence, motivation to take on new things. And the other one is kind of crippling, right? I mean, okay, there's helplessness. There is feeling caged. So whenever I stepped into my position of power, and from there I looked at any situation that gave me more expansive choices.
That's beautiful. And I think I couldn't agree more. I believe this so strongly that women can actually be more effective parents. I know one of the things every woman wants is to be really good parent, right? But we have a conventional definition which we've borrowed from our moms who weren't in the same environment as we are, and who didn't have the same desires as we have. So we are going with these stories of these are the ways I can be a good mom. But what Kakoli just mentioned, and what I want to offer you, is that you will realize that the best gift you can give your kids is by you being that expansive self, you being in that power and making choices from that power, whatever that looks like.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So what else are we diving into? There are so many things. I'm waiting for some of our impromptu humor to come up.
That we have in our sessions. So on a serious note, though, I mean, there are women who do realize that there is something they can get out of coaching, right? I've had a lot of consults where women come in and they think that this is the right program, but they just this investing this money in themselves, even when they're earning it, but it just feels huge for them, and they often don't take the leap because it's not as common in our society, especially in India yet. And I've seen you had a lot of responsibilities as a single woman. You weren't like super extra luxury rich who can just give the money, right? But you made this choice. From the last 2 years we've been working together, I think you've thrice kind of re-enrolled. So what made you invest, and what would you say to someone who is hesitating to spend that money in coaching? What would you say to her? Why should she do it, or she shouldn't, or what should she consider while making this decision?
I will twist the answer in a way. I will talk from my own perspective. So why am I working with you? I mean, I've re-enrolled 3 times. Sometimes our thought patterns are so deeply entrenched that we don't even know that those are our patterns that we are living, and we think we have. So here's the thing, right? I come to Kavita's sessions and I'm like, this time I have become wiser and smarter. This time I'm going to tell Kavita I've changed. Okay, whatever I had told you I was struggling with, I have changed. The funny thing is, in that whole preparation, I would also prepare my lines because I have to convince her I had changed, right? And I don't know, when she asks me 1 3 questions, and then I see that smile. She's like, okay, now here I'm just going to tell you how you are again falling in the same pattern. And I know you're going to hate me for doing this. And I really used to hate her.
And you have hated me quite a lot.
Yeah.
I remember that look on your face when I'm telling you, even though you tried to hide it, you couldn't. You're like, I hate this woman.
Seriously, I'm like, what's wrong with her? What's wrong with her? Here is me who wants to move ahead. And she is still questioning me on this. So what I'm trying to say here is there are these deeply entrenched patterns that come in our way of blossoming into our most I wouldn't, let me get rid of the figurative language and say that there are many things that we have infinite potentiality to be anything, right? But what comes in our way is our memories of the ugly past, right? The learned habits, the learned way of thinking, which do not would stop us from choosing differently. And every time we end up creating the same situations that we want to change in the first place. And they may come sneaking in different circumstances, but it's the same cage that we are creating everywhere. So and that work requires um, a compassionate, non-judgmental, uh, active listening, somebody with deep compassion. It requires somebody to hold the space. It requires somebody to hold the mirror. And more importantly, and I think I have said this to you, Kavita, it requires someone to love you fiercely, fiercely enough to tell you that you don't have to change anything in you. You don't have to get rid of any mess for you to love yourself. Love yourself. You are worthy of all the love right here in this moment with every bit of messy self that you have. So it was not easy for me to believe in that love. It is still not easy. But every time I have given up on myself, I have had someone love me fiercely. And that love I saw in you, Kavita. So that every time I came broken to a session, I could access wholeness. Now, it might seem like a spiritual conversation, but what I'm trying to say is the fact that you might have infinite potential, the fact that you have infinite potential, whoever is listening to, you need someone to remind you till it becomes your default thinking. You need someone to remind you, oh, you are thinking the same old ways, and hence creating the same old results. You need someone to remind you compassionately and also objectively, right? So that is, I think, what coaching brings to anybody's life. And again, it's an investment. It's an investment in yourself to get past yourself. All the work that we are doing, the enemy is no one else, we, right? And our thoughts. So coaching is an investment to see our thoughts, to acquire the skill of seeing our thoughts objectively. That requires practice. And that's the space a coach holds for anyone. So that would be my answer. Did I answer?
Absolutely, and very well summarized. So tell me now, let's shift gears to Kakoli's future. Now we've worked together, Kakoli, for almost 2 years now in different formats. And I think in the beginning phase, it was more about tangible results. Okay, I want to change the job. I want to get rid of this job and I want to have more time and I want to, do biking and do these. So they were all of tangible results we focused on. And now we have switched gears to really going even further deep within you and being the version of you who you really want to be and going after the big dreams you have. So what can people expect? And in the future, expansive version of Kakoli?
That's a tricky zone to get into.
Why do you say that?
Yeah. Why do I say that? Because I'm beginning to discover depths of me that I didn't think I would have courage to access before. As I get into my depth in alignment with myself more and more, I see myself living this. I told this to Kavita. Okay, I told this to Kavita, and maybe we can talk about the day I mentioned this goal as well. So really, I'm beginning to feel I'm a translator of sorts. I'm translator of sorts of wisdom. I'm a translator of sorts who can access wisdom and translate it for other women to tap into the same wisdom. My way of expression can be what I write, can be what I perform as well, and can be my work of art, though there can be different modalities. But what I see myself doing is becoming a translator of that wisdom that I have had glimpses of experiencing myself in those deep moments of connectedness that I have experienced. Yeah, that is who I want to be. And I don't want to give it any fixed definition at this point in time, because I have seen it as seen it as an expansive form, right? All that I know is I want to become a translator of that wisdom. I want to at some point in time, I want to the spiritual work that I am doing, I am experiencing. I want to hold space for other women to explore their deeper side as well. And just for whoever is listening in, I am also doing deep work of women's biology and what connection it has to spirituality, right? We are in this women's biology for a reason. And what could be those reasons? What gifts can I bring to this world by being in this women's biology? So that is my work. And yeah, and it will show up in different ways. Maybe books I write, poems I write, drama that I perform, but
Maybe
that's
publishing, getting a article published in, which was that, New York?
oh yes.
What was
So
that?
it's been my dream to get published on New Yorker. It's a so New Yorker. So earlier my dreams were like this: New Yorker, TED Talk. Yeah. So they were more on the action line. And these are the things that I want to do. Versus now, this is
Who
who
I
I
want to
have discovered myself to be.
be.
And there can be different ways of expressions, but what matters is the being, right? The doing will find its own prolific
Yeah. And I
expressions.
think that's the one, that shift that I would highlight, Kakoli, which has been so beautiful to watch in you, that the kind of conversations have elevated. And women ask me this question a lot of time. I just don't know what I want when I have these conversations. And I'm like, of course you don't know what you want, because you're so buried under the shoulds and the responsibilities and this, that wisdom, it doesn't even have the surface, the environment to come up. So until you are willing to do this work, sometimes that may look like, okay, I need to have time, so help me free up time. Like, these are all, for me now, it feels like surface level, but as you do the work, you realize there's so much more you want to be. And if you don't choose to do this work, you'll never explore what you could be.
Yes, and I also wanted to share, Kavita. I mean, when I started the journey, those some of those tangible goals were important for me
Yes.
to validate that I can go deeper, right?
Yes.
Um, so for anyone who is beginning this work, I would say that it also comes in steps.
Yeah.
Like how in my spiritual journey also, I want, like, it does not happen like that, right? It's step by step. And yeah, it can only happen to the extent that our nervous system is partnering with us.
Yes.
So anything that we are not ready for, it will result in disruptions, right? Not constructive disruptions, but breakdowns. That's what is going to happen. So it happens in steps. The point, that the reason I bring this up is, it isn't like this deliciousness of inner work that I'm experiencing now. I actually had no clue when I got started,
Yeah.
right? It happened in gradually as it kind of is like a downward spiral, not in a negative way, the spiral going to the depth inside me. And with every cycle, I was going deeper and deeper. And some of the goals when I was at the wider outermost spiral were tangible, because those validations were important for me
I mean,
to,
that's, I think, needed
yeah,
for us, because until
yes,
we really see that working, we don't even have space in our lives to
yes,
think about what do I really want, right? And in
yeah.
fact, that brings me to another question. I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. Some of my clients have done this work, right? Like, they were probably, I had 12-week, for example, work. So we would take up a goal and we would do that 12-week program where I'll introduce the basic tools, the basic modules, and they will achieve that goal. And then at some point, like, I'm very interested in doing deep work with clients for a longer term, because that's when we really start to get to the meat, and that's where some of my work with you has come in. And the thought error that I think I sometimes hear a lot is, I don't want to be dependent on you. I want to be able to figure this out myself. Like, I don't want to be dependent on you. And while this is the work that we do, like, my whole entire work with you, for example, has been are you dependent on anybody, and removing that dependency. But often it comes in the early stage of, after doing like a few 3 months of program, they start to question, because there is an investment involved, that maybe they should just try to do it on their own. They know the tools. So I'm curious what your point of view would be as these women are considering whether to renew, because you've renewed 3 times. So I'm curious what your thoughts are about that.
But the spiral is an answer, actually, because there is, what I meant is, the version of you is ever changing. The version of me is ever changing, right? Uh, every time I've achieved a goal, I'm like, hi, this I could do. I wonder what else I can do. This happened like that so deliciously. I wonder what else I can do. So what I'm trying to say is, the version also keeps expanding. As we work on our own limiting beliefs, the space keeps on opening and opening, and to do deeper work, and then we need to do deeper work to become this expansive versions that are opening up for ourselves. And that's why this continued investment, it's not dependency, it's about increasing momentum to deepen the work, right? And uh, I mean, of course, I can also say things like, okay, even an expert therapist gets therapy and things like that. So there are so many levels of coaching that one can get into. From my own coaching experience, the kind of conversations that I would have before, and the kind of issues that I would bring, sometimes I would laugh at.
Thinking about the notes. Do you see the notes of
Oh my
conversations
God.
we had in
And
early
I'm like,
2021
what?
and now?
And that seemed to be like be it all, do it all, be all, do all problem that I was dealing with at that point in time. I wouldn't see anything. I mean, I would be so mad at Kavita for not accepting that that's the end of my world. It's doomsday, Kavita. Come on. Come on. You also be as anxious as me as I am now. Come on, join my anxiety. And there she would be like, okay, how else can we think about it? How else can we think about it? The point is, every 6-7 months, I'm embarrassed of my problems that I used to bring to the sessions. I'm saying using the word embarrassment in an amplified way to say how we change, and to hold this journey to deepen the work, we need more advanced level of coaching.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, as I answer that question for these women, right? I mean, my thought is that just you've had decades of overthinking, just doing it for 3 months, while it will help you with the tools, you're swimming in the world, which you'll be like surrounded by all of these beliefs. So it's worth it. It's worth, you can try doing it on your own, but it's going to be so much slower. So investing in a coach can make it fire. And I think that, to me personally, I have thought about this for myself. And I think that sometimes also comes maybe from a space of limited scarcity mindset. And then when you start to really say, I am the center and I get to have what I want, then everything opens up and the question becomes, what do you really want, right?
Yeah.
So wonderful.
Yeah. And okay, by now I have experienced so many of these deliberate creations. I'm like, okay, whatever I invest in myself is going to come back to me. That's the thought I literally have every time I give something, every time I invest something in myself, I'm going to create tenfolds of it. Whatever that is, if that's love, if that's money, if that's whatever
beautiful.
that is, right? Yeah. So I'm convinced that it's going to come back to me. I think you also heard this from me when I was enrolling. Yeah, and that was another, I think, stand-up comedy worthy chapter.
Well, for the listeners, we're going to come up with stand-up comedy with Kakoli and Kavita. We have all these moments in our coaching sessions. We're like, we should do more stand-up comedy.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, so that's actually the thought that I have. It has become a practice thought now, right? Every time when I say practice thought, it's not that I'm 100% foolproof. Even on a day like today, I could hear some of my old thoughts sneak in, but I can now call them, here is my old thought trying to say hello to me. Okay, let me just remember that and recognize it as my old thought. I don't have to go entertain. So that pause has come now. That pause has started developing now. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Anything else that we've not talked about that's coming to your mind, you would say, add, or share?
Well, I mean, what I also want to say is, one, of course, is the stand-up comedy content. And on that note, I think red lipstick is one of those. Yes.
Yeah, tell us the red lipstick story. Both of us are wearing red lipstick right now.
Yes. So this was Kavita has a module called Dare module, okay? And there she asked, for me, there were some 30 dares for, or I forgot what was the number of dares. I think one dare every day. And
yeah, I think for a couple of weeks we did that. Now one dare every day.
Yes. And my story is, it now seems almost impossible that that could be my story. That after, especially after today's photographs, I've never worn any makeup ever in my life. Okay, I had not owned one single piece of lipstick my entire life. So I told Kavita, you know what? I am going to buy red lipstick and I'm going to wear red lipstick every single day. I still remember that was the month of July in 2021. That's first when I started wearing lipstick, and I wanted to start with red. And I bought some 7, 8 shades of red lipstick at that point in time. And every single day I showed up in red lipstick. So that's the red lipstick story.
And just quickly, what was the thought, or what was the reason behind you not using makeup? Because clearly you wanted to, clearly you had the desire, but what story were you telling yourself that stopped you from buying makeup or using it?
So the version of the story is, so here is the thing, okay? I love beauty. So I love looking beautiful as well, okay? But in my childhood, I was judged a lot for, there was shaming of a different kind, right? I mean, every time I would do anything, even comb my hair, they'd be like, wasting your time on unwanted things. You should be buried in books. And yeah, I was one of those good girls. So long
Good
hair,
girls.
oiled, ribbons, the most hideous looking clothes, and wearing tents whenever I'm not wearing uniforms. So
why did that story continue? What I'm curious about, and this is the true for like all of us women, right? We, even though we are adults, even though we are like 30, 40, 50 age group, right? Like we still are going with those stories of past. So what would you say to women, other women who've probably not passed that story and they're still brewing some story in their mind? What would you say to them about the stories they have?
So, two things, right? What were others' judgments now become your own judgments. What others were judging me for now have become my own judgments to judge myself.
Yes.
Every time I would think of dressing well, of looking attractive, I would be like, frivolous, right? Wasting time. And not just me, I would judge any woman who would dress well. The hidden reason is I would admire them, but because I can't be them, I can talk about them. I can say, judge them. Actually, I want to be like them. I really admire their them giving permissions to themselves to be who they are, and I want to be them, but I can't be them because I'm coming in my own way. So that the only way I know how to console myself is by judging, right? So that is one. And the other reason is validation, right? People pleasing. We don't know, I didn't know that I had the need for validation in so many different forms that would influence my goals. I thought those were my goals, but no, really. I mean, to the extent that, so there's a story called The Descent of Inanna, and I want every woman out there to go and listen to it. The whole point is Inanna descends underworld and loses everything of herself. And then eventually, like she strips off, Inanna is a queen, but as she descends to the underworld, there are 7 gates, and each gate she has to disrobe herself, something of her. Disrobing is a symbolic way of letting go of ego, letting go of thoughts, right? And then eventually she dies. And then happens the rebirth of Inanna, right? So, so the reason I mentioned that is I didn't know what kind of people pleasing I was doing, in what form. I thought those were goals of mine, whatever I had on my goal sheet. But know that I was actually pleasing others. I seek validation so much so that I would go after goals that would give me validation. So yeah, those two reasons at least very important for me.
Mm,
Why I did not give myself permission to who I really wanted to
mm.
be, what my truly deepest desires were.
Yeah, and I'm sure this is going to resonate with so many women because all of us live in a society where there are so many things that we've accepted as our own, but they're really not aligned with who we want to be. So until we really challenge these, we're not even going to get in touch with who do we really want to be. And
Yes.
that is such an evolving thing. Who we want to be is going to keep expanding. So this is going to be a lifelong journey.
Yes. Lifelong journey. And um, going downwards in a spiral to one's deepest depth and at the same time an expansive form. I also want to talk about those moments of almost unreal connection that we
Mhm.
have had through our coaching conversations. Um, it's not easy to recreate those moments. Uh, they are very organic in nature, but what I want to talk about is during those times, I felt like everything dissolved,
Mm.
everything dissolved, and I am seeing you as an extension of myself,
Yeah.
telling me things that I want to hear at that point in time. And I know we have talked about how um, uh, we made a joke out of it, but then how it feels like we are like these floating zones floating beings in ether zone, right? We don't even we like define gravity, and we're in that zone, and we are kind of high-fiving each other. So that was I know because our language is humor, so we sometimes tend to talk about um, deeper things also using
Mm.
humor. But those were the moments of connection that I have felt, um, and the love that I have felt also. Now this is not personal to you and me, right? It's not really love for you in that
Mm.
sense, but it's because you give me access to my whole self.
Yes.
It's love for that wholesome feeling, right?
Yes. And I
So,
think that reminds me of that moment, Kakoli, where, in one of these sessions where we were having that moment where there was this connectedness and there was you realizing all of those stories and you stepping into that expansive version of you, you said, I thank you that you like, I don't remember what you said. You said that you make me feel so good, some version of that. And that's when I said that the reason it feels so good is because I'm just helping you connect with you.
yes,
Because
yes,
I'm just a medium. It's not about me. I'm not the object or main subject. I am just a facilitator who's just connecting you with you. And I think that's such a true sort of way of defining coaching, that coaching is not taking you away and making it dependent. Coaching is just removing everything that stops you from being who you want to be. That's it. Now, who it happens to be, me, it happens to be somebody else, it doesn't really matter. Whoever can help you connect with you, that's your medium, right?
yes.
And that's so and I love that. How I think this is what I love about like clients like you who are so spiritual, because this is where I think the line between coaching and spirituality is completely going away. We started as a formal coaching and now our discussions have become so spiritual and like co-creating together, so it's so joyous.
Yeah, that is also because I think because the work has become so deep, right? Just one thing that I want to say, I know we have already spent a lot of time, but one thing, one of the sessions where I hated Kavita, I hated her so much that I didn't show up for coaching. I invented many excuses and I just didn't show up for coaching then the following two sessions. So when I told her, Kavita, I want to set 10x goal. Uh,
Quantum leap. I want quantum
Quantum.
leap, Kavita. I want this goal, big 10. And it goes ironically when you'd already achieved the goal we had talked about.
Yes.
And I thought she'll come in saying, now I want to be this version. She's like, no, I want to do this. And I was like, what?
Yeah, that was right after that big there was this conference that I was facilitating where
Yeah.
there were CHROs, and so I had just come off from that high, right? And I come to this session. Now that I know I can achieve 10x goal, Kavita, quantum leap, I want quantum leap. And she's like, no, you're not going to set goals today. Why? So it took me some time to understand that those goals were for me distractions from even beginning to explore what can be my most expansive form. So those goals were, like they say, the obstacle to the highest goal are clear paths to a lesser goal. So I would surround myself with so many of these goals, so-called goals, that I had become a doing addict. So I would not even give myself to sit in the discomfort of sitting in an empty space and seeing, okay, what is really possible. So she just did not give in to my, I want to set goals. So she said, we'll sit in this discomfort and be there for some time and let's see what comes up. Yeah. So from that space, we actually got into this thing that we're not going to set goals. We are only going to be in that space of alignment and see what comes up from there. So yeah, and just wanted to say that that has opened up so many avenues for myself that I didn't see exist before. Yeah.
That is beautiful. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Lovely. As always, delicious conversation. People say work burns them out. I'm like, my work is like this. And after work, I'm like super excited and got to go ready to go dance. But tell us, we can go on for entire night, but we have limited time. So tell everybody if they want to know more and they want to stay in touch with this evolving version of Kakoli, how can they do that? Where can they find you?
I also had a few lines to say. Should I say those lines first and then end with my?
Absolutely.
Yeah, this is not mine, but I thought this is so beautiful. This was a message that I received on Vijaya Dashami Day, the day of victory. And the message is something like this. The demon is always within. The goddess is also within. The goddess is always within. The battle is always within too. And so is the triumph of one over the other. Which one over which one is the question. The choice is also somehow always within. I thought that's very beautiful.
That is so good. You know, it combines, as I hear that, I just keep seeing connections in this spirituality, right? Like the whole idea of spirituality is being all inclusive. And I think when we really realize that there are no demons outside, it's all us. We are the demon, we are the victim and perpetrator and everything, then we realize others are too. And it just becomes so all inclusive. That's when I feel like that love can really come out for the world. So thank you for sharing that poem. It's beautiful.
Yes, I think that was beautiful. And that also ties very well with how I mentioned those lines here because it's coaching also helps us to choose the choice and make the choices, right, of the battle within. Okay, so where can you find me? I am really exploring my creative and spiritual side, and that work I'm beginning to do. I'm beginning to explore my wild creative side on Instagram, and my handle is kakoli.das. And I also create content on LinkedIn. LinkedIn, I create content appropriate for LinkedIn, but even there.
You're an influencer on LinkedIn also. I think you did.
Yes. I was part of the LinkedIn Creator Accelerator program. Yeah. So yeah, so I write from my heart, and people, even on LinkedIn, my content is whatever I feel true at that point in time, I write. So I've heard that it resonates well with people because it's not what is trending on LinkedIn, but what's trending in me at that point.
I know latest video I saw of you was you dancing to a concert
Yes.
on LinkedIn. I'm like, we are changing the rules of LinkedIn.
Yeah, yeah. Yes, I wanted to find a way to put that video, right? I mean,
I want content to support what I want to do. I love that.
so yes, I on LinkedIn you can find me as Kakoli Das, and I look pretty on my profile pic, so that's the Kakoli that you want to follow. And yeah, so these are two places where I create content, and keep watching how what I blossom into. It's going to be glorious. I know that.
Absolutely. I have no doubts about it. In fact, that's what really excites me because I know just by being, I know whenever I tell somebody, oh, I have a client, she's a single mother, and then all the other things I say, they're like, why? Like, how is she doing that? Right. So just by you being you, you've inspired so many people and you continue to do that. But what excites me is the future you're creating. I know we're gonna look at this moment, Kakoli, when we're like impacting millions of lives together, and we're gonna be like, remember that conversation? That was such a milestone in the journey, and I look forward to doing that.
Awesome. Yes, we did it.
We did it. Well, thank you everybody for staying on and listening to our heart-to-heart chatter. And I'll be back, hopefully, with new conversations like this again.
Take care, everyone. Bye.